Action Man, the greatest hero of them all. If you were growing up in the late 90s to early 2000s, you probably saw many of the ads for said greatest hero. Well, the Hasbro line of the toy, anyway. I remember I had a handful of Action Man figures laying around as a kid. God only knows where they are now, but you didn't have to go too far to see Action Man, as he had 2 TV shows to his name. A CGI one, and a weird hybrid live action and 2D animated one as well. Now, I wasn't a big fan of Action Man as a kid, but looking back on it now, I have a fonder appeal to it. So when I saw there was an Action Man game for the PS1, I had to get my hands on this piece of heavenly media. Whether it be good or bad. Released in 2000 for the original PlayStation, and then getting released on the PC in the UK in 2001, and then Australia and New Zealand in 2004, it was published by 3DO and developed by Blitz Games. Action Man Destruction X is a sequel to Action Man Operation Extreme, which baffles me that Action Man was popular enough to get 2 games on the PS1. But they did throw a heap of shite on it, so I shouldn't be too surprised by what I see on the system. Gives me more to play when I get my grubby little hands on Operation X. But back to Destruction X. I'm not gonna lie, I had really low expectations going into this game, but lick my face and call me an ice cream. I was actually surprised by how decent this game is. Now, don't get me wrong, I'd struggle to call this game good, but I wouldn't call it bad. We start off with you foiling Dr. X's plans to weaponize dinosaurs, and we get this really neat third-person action game fight with your boomerang gun before Dr. X escapes and goes into hiding for months. Then as he starts to surface again by kidnapping a bunch of scientists, it's up to you, Action Man, to stop him. And that's the basic gist of the plot. You're going to be driving around in this overhead view, something akin to the old GTA games, while doing some missions. I find it funny that while Dr. X is planning something that could take over the world, Action Man takes these breaks to go racing in competitions. In my own headcanon for this game, I like to think Action Man is just off racing the entire time, and I'm his replacement, who's just a man, and gets by on blind luck. Because with how badly I was driving, I'm no Action Man. I'm just man. Now, I do have to say, the third-person shooter opening segment I didn't expect, and the fact this type of gameplay only appears at the opening and ending of the game is a horrid shame, as it really would have brought a bit more spice to the game if sections like this were spread throughout more evenly, because my god, this game needed it, as the driving segments are drawn out. At first it's fine as you go around doing minigames or missions around the many cities you can drive in, but these missions repeat too frequently. The worst offender being a spotlight game where you have to shine a light on 40 criminals trying to escape. This one was already outstaying its welcome by miles when you do it the first time, and the fact that other minigames are kind of variations on it, like putting out fires or using a camera to see the thermal heat of criminals to spot them through walls, just feels lazy. It reuses these types of minigames so often that it just makes the eyes roll into the back of the head and reappear from the bottom of it. The actual missions that require driving around the city can be a lot of fun, with you needing to drive bombs out of the city and toss them into the sea, or setting up bombs around a building to level it to the ground, or as I mentioned earlier, the racing events. The actual mechanics are a bit iffy. I never felt like I was in control of the vehicles on offer like the Kira bike or Action Man car. The only time I felt in control was with the heavy tank. And don't get me started on the police car, it's like driving on ice. I can see what they were going for with making it slippy, to make the police car drift and deliver an effect similar to the car chases from 1970s movies. And while that is cool, you're all over the place with it, which can be just annoying. And coming back to dragging the life out of missions, the police ask Action Man to chase down bad guys, 6 for each city you move to, and yet again, it's overused and never really mixes it up in any way to make it more interesting, as each criminal you chase down do the same shit, just drop glue or bombs to slow you down. I couldn't bring myself to do all these police car chases, as it wore me down after getting about halfway through the game. There's also niggly little things that were annoying and a hindrance, like the racing events. The big issue is the camera is too close and you can't really tell what corners are coming, and that just frustrates me endlessly when I get corners wrong. And this could have been alleviated from showing more by bringing the camera back to showcase corners in advance, or giving us a mini-map of the track. I'm kinda surprised there wasn't a map for anything, as it could have been handy, as there are some dead ends in the cities that you might just stumble into because you can't tell before it's too late. Like, this game came out in 2000. Maps for games like this were expected in my opinion back then. But it doesn't overly ruin the experience. Annoying, yeah, but the game is functional. Like, it can fuck you up on your race events and waste your time as you do it again until you learn the track from muscle memory, but actually, you know, now that I think about it, it's honestly pretty bad. This, how much this can frustrate the fuck out of you, yeah. Overall though, even with these vexations, when things work, you can feel super cool. For example, in the police car. When you pull off controlling it the odd time and drifting around corners, it gets you in that headspace of the chase, and really helps sell how fun Destruction X can be, when you randomly become good at the controls for a second or two. You also have weapons, but any enemies you face are so non-threatening that simply using the base machine gun on your car is enough to beat them easily. There's no reason to really use the other weapons at all. Some are stronger, but not by much in my opinion. Definitely not enough to switch to them. The gameplay experience that Action Man Destruction X offers is decent. It's so middle of the road, with elements that can just drain you and make you feel not happy, but then there's elements of the gameplay. When you hit those drifts and turns right, or you have to get to a destination on time before stuff explodes, that makes you hyper and ecstatic. I find it real weird that my view on this game could change drastically depending on how things are going. But objectively, as stated, it's just a surprisingly decent game. Graphically, the game looks good. Like, it's neat seeing the cities in snow and some of the differences in design. But everything does feel very square and rectangular road-wise. It feels like you're driving on the same road wherever you are, which is a pity. A bit more variety would have been nice. But some of the animations I do adore. I love the little running animation of civilians on the road when you're about to hit them, and they just glide quickly out of the way. It appeals to me on some level that I can't describe, but made me smile at how silly it looks. The Action Man logo coming together and splitting apart for loading into the game's main title screen did things to my brain that made it say, "That's nice. Keep doing that. Don't stop." Also, the fact that when you're herding animals who have escaped from the zoo and you beep at them, they shit themselves, and it's a detail I didn't expect, and one I wholeheartedly abused. It's a weird addition to have in this game, but since I'm all for weird, I'll happily embrace it. Though you have to wonder, what was the discussion that led to adding animals shitting into their game?
Let's hope the animals shit themselves.
An aspect that was oddly surprising is the music. Most of it has this almost covert spy-like feel for most of its tunes. That sort of suits the tone of going around trying to find Dr. X. But it has this one track that has this really high energy for the races, that really gets you going. Rob Lord did a great job with the music. The voice acting though is what you would expect from an Action Man game. The people playing evil characters play it up a bit with their evilness. They're not great but serviceable, though Action Man's voice actor is a beast in and of itself. The best way I can describe him is that he's like a sidekick, explaining everything sort of voice. But it really feels like your man was reading these off the script for the first time and had no real acting experience before. His performance just doesn't gel with the rest of the VAs in this game. And usually I would criticize something like this, but I'm not gonna lie, his acting makes some line deliveries just come across very fucking funny. Action Man Destruction X is a fine game. It has issues with padding the fuck out of missions and minigames, making them overstay their welcome well before you're even halfway through the game. It has control issues with how hard it is to control vehicles, and the camera is just a little too close for my liking, and can cause problems like reacting on time. But I still squeeze joy out of this. Maybe it was due to my expectations being incredibly low. But I had fun here and there throughout it all. I also think it's fucking sick Action Man has a video game. Would I recommend picking it up? Probably not. Though it is cheap, and you could do a hell of a lot worse. After all, who doesn't want to be the greatest hero of them all? Well, until next time, buds, take her handy.